Our guest today is a comedian I've known for over 25 years. That's a long time. He's one of the few comedians I know that actually can write. He actually wrote on a show called Dilbert. Our guest on the last show is Scott Steen. You remember Dilbert? Watch this clip. We'll be right back with Scott Steen.
You need to get better at anticipating problems.
If I could anticipate problems, I wouldn't have agreed to work for you. You seem angry. I did not see that coming.
Scott, thank you for being on the show, buddy.
Elliot, I can't believe you're having me on the last show. It's such an honor to be on the last show.
The last show. When did you get started in comedy? We talked a little bit about this when we did the live feed at Steve's Comedy Club, but when did you get 85?
Yeah, I don't want to break it to you, but we've known each other a lot longer than 25 years. Yes.
Did you know we actually, and I don't know if you knew this, Joseph, we had a radio show. We were like a radio team for a good 3 or 4 months there.
Then we got beat by the Sundown.
That's right.
It was the Sundown station.
So tell me about, first I wonder, how do comedians get into comedy writing, like on TVs? Because that's where the money is. I don't think it's actually in clubs anymore.
No, it is in writing. I was lucky enough to, when I was working my day job at the casino, I met a guy that also worked at the casino. He was very, very funny. He just graduated from KU with an English degree, which, by the way, if you don't have an English degree, I strongly suggest you partner with somebody that does. It's very But we had the same sense of humor, and we started writing spec scripts. And we started
Tell
writing
everybody what a spec script is.
A spec script is just a script that you do for an
existing show.
Thank you. For an existing show, just to kind of show your mettle, and you make up a brand new premise and an episode, and when you get it done, you then start submitting it to various agencies and things like that. You know, everybody thinks you just write one and you send it to the show.
You can't do that.
No, you cannot do that. First of all, if you want to work for The Simpsons, never write a Simpsons, because they won't open it. Because if they do anything that's even remotely similar 10 years from now to that script you sent in, they don't want to get sued.
Makes sense.
So if you try to do it that way, you have to write for another show. So we wrote a couple. We sent it to a bunch of agents in Hollywood, and we got lukewarm response. Good stuff, but you're not quite ready yet. Keep writing, keep submitting, and come see us. Well, fast forward, he leaves the casino, gets a job with Anders McMeel, which is a big advertising agency here in Kansas City. They handle a lot of animated properties. They handle Snoopy, they handled Dilbert and things like that. Well, he was in on the ground floor when they talked about Scott Adams, who, by the way, wasn't insane then.
Going crazy like he is. No. That was in the clip, by the way, so disclaimer on that.
Yeah, apologies. I need a bumper sticker on my car. I wrote for Dilbert before Scott Adams was crazy. But we got an in, and we got to submit, and we actually wrote a South Park that we submitted to Scott Adams and Larry Charles, who ended up being the showrunner or executive producer, what we would call the head writer, the showrunner, basically.
Okay.
And they loved it, and they brought us out there. I was doing comedy, delivering pizzas at the time. I don't even know if I've ever told you this story.
I did. Oh, I remember you delivering pizza.
I was delivering pizza for Papa John. We got hired on a Monday, and we had to be out there the following Wednesday. We had to be in LA in 9 days. So I went in and I told my manager, Papa John, he's 22 or whatever. I said, I can't work here anymore. I got hired to write for a TV show. And he said, dude, if you want to work for Pizza Hut, just tell me. That's a true story. That's a true story.
My God.
He thought I was making up some elaborate ruse. I'm like, what, do you get that all the time, do you? with the Raytown delivery guys, do you get that? I got to go write for TV story all the time.
So you're out there. Is it like what I see on TV, the writer's room? Everybody's in there, or do you two break off? Or are you guys all around a big conference table, all pitching ideas?
We were very independent. So we would get together. We'd get together once a year to break the season, where we would, basically everybody would come up with arcs and everything. And
and I don't know if everybody knows, it was every Dilbert a cartoon. It seems like every cartoon is a bottleneck episode. It doesn't really attached to the other episodes?
Yeah, they're pretty much standalone.
Yeah, standalone episode. That's what I guess.
Yeah, and you'll
So
find
that's
most
why you can just
animation
write
is that
one.
way.
Yeah, you
yes.
can just write one. It's a standalone. That's why when you watch The Simpsons or Family Guy or something like that, you can watch one episode and pretty much catch up with everything.
Yeah,
right?
they're not referring to something that happened a month ago on the show.
Yeah.
So
Except the chicken when they fight the chicken.
they do have some great callbacks, man. The chicken fight on Family Guy. So
you're all in there.
Yep.
And
so we would write individually in teams.
was it weird to say I was delivering pizzas in Raytown? Now you're on a studio lot.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Well, we weren't actually on the lot. We had a little office park thing in right outside of Venice in Culver City. Right off of Washington. There, we're just down the street from Fox Studio. If you know where the Fox lot
I do
is.
remember that. I lived out in LA for a hot
Right.
2 or 3 years, maybe 4 years.
So yeah, we're just down the road. We're like 2.5 miles from Venice. So yeah, we were just working in an office park, except when we would go and watch them do the voiceover stuff. But they would have the table read at our place, which was always very cool. We had Daniel Stern on the show. We had Gordon.
Home Alone.
We had Gordon Hunt. We had Chris Elliott.
Oh wow!
And then like every voice person you've ever heard
they
of.
They came in there?
Oh yeah.
You got to meet them?
Oh yeah.
Oh wow!
So Helen Hunt, because her dad was Gordon Hunt, and then all the guys from Seinfeld did little appearances.
Wayne Knight?
No, the Big Four.
Oh.
The Big Four. So Seinfeld.
What?
Yeah. Because they all knew, because Larry Charles worked on Seinfeld.
Yeah.
As a producer, so he had that Seinfeld connection. So we brought in Jason Alexander to do stuff.
Julie Dreyfus?
All four of them. This was This was when Michael Richards was still persona grata.
Well, actually, they can see the Adams-Richards connection now. Actually, in hindsight.
Yeah, no kidding.
Well, we're going to talk about more about comedy and other stuff with Scott Steen when we get back from the last show.
John, 38, Morris Plains, New Jersey, electrical engineer.
Scott, 41, Kansas City, Missouri, casino games inventor.
Zach, 30, Reno, Nevada, small business owner.
The first round lasts for 1 minute, 45 seconds, and the order you're playing in was randomly selected before the show. Let's play the weakest link. The first question is for $250 to start the clock. What female pop singer had a #1 hit with Crazy for You?
Jennifer Lopez.
No, Madonna. The concert for Bangladesh was a charity event organized by which former Beatle?
George Harrison.
Correct. Scott, what is the smallest piece in a standard chess set?
Pawn.
Correct. Scott.
George.
Remind everyone what you do for a living.
I'm a casino games inventor.
Haven't they all been invented pretty much now?
No, they haven't. Only the good ones.
So you working on that great game 22 that might be coming out sometime soon?
I've got a variation
Now
of
see,
blackjack.
the difference is, it's just one extra number. It's 22.
It opens up a whole nother
It's better
avenue.
than 21.
It's one better.
Scott, why'd you pick Abby?
Because if you're a Rhodes Scholar, you are definitely not going to Harvard. So I figured she needed some time to do some traveling to figure out where Oxford was.
All right, Scott, so we talked about in the first break what it was writing behind the camera, but you've had some experience in front of the camera on game shows, which I'm always amazed. You know, it's another thing to do movies about people who read game shows,
Right.
and the whole Jeopardy drama and everything like that. Tell us about the game shows you were on.
Well, I was on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire first.
Okay.
And that was a great experience. But they didn't pay any expenses because it was the day version.
Yeah.
So you had to get yourself to New York and stay in New York and all that. But this was
How did you prove you're smart enough to be on these shows?
they had a mass
Audition?
yeah, and you have to take a test first of all. And it was really kind of sad because I took it with my boss at the time. And you take a general test, you take a movies test. So we took two separate tests, and he didn't pass either one of them. So he had to wait around for me to get done with all my interviews. So then you go through 2 or 3 levels of interviewing and things like that. And then they say, okay, you've been accepted on the show. We have up to a year. We'll call you if we need you. They called 8 days later. And said, we need you in a week.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was
And then the other show you did,
Was the weakest link.
Okay.
I did the daytime version again. Apparently, I'm not quite good
You're
looking
not
enough for
PM
nighttime.
game show
I'm
worthy,
not
yeah.
ready for prime time.
Yeah,
Baby.
yeah.
But we did that with George Gray, who was a comic. He's now the announcer on The Price is Right.
For Drew Carey, another comic.
For Drew Carey. Have you ever
Comics rule the world.
Did you ever go to Drew's house up in the hills?
No, I haven't. You been there?
I
What's
have.
it like?
It is nice. It's but he used to have like telescopes set up. He's a pretty big perv. but
Yeah,
he's
we've
a-
heard that. I've heard that.
He's
You
a
know,
great guy.
He's a great guy. He's very nice when I would
Yes.
see him at the Improv and everything like that. Super nice, and I'm jealous of him. He's super skinny. Do you ever remember the movie Speed with Keanu Reeves
Sure.
and Dennis Hopper?
Sure.
Remember what Dennis Hopper would always say to Keanu Reeves in the middle of everything?
Pop quiz, hot
Pop
shot?
quiz. There we go. And I've got some questions.
Uh-oh.
He should be able to get all these if he's been on the game show and everything
Yeah,
like
I
that. So
should
we'll see.
have come to rehearsal.
Who was the painter on the Mona Lisa?
Rembrandt.
No, I'll give you the thing. Da Vinci, Raphael, or Sergio Bottini?
Oh, Da Vinci.
All right. You got that one.
Sorry.
Okay. Which of these plays was not written by William Shakespeare? Macbeth, Hamlet, Dr. Faustus, or Romeo and Juliet?
Dr. Faustus.
Pretty good. What's the smallest prime number?
1.
No, let's see. I've got the options here. I know. The options are 2, 4, 6, or 8.
Well, it's 2 then.
It is 2.
Why is 1 not a prime number?
I don't know. I always thought it was
Divisible by 1 in
Yeah,
itself. Oh,
yeah,
well.
exactly. I always thought it was in the 3 category.
All right.
All right. He's gotten them all right so far. What is the capital of Italy? Do you need help for this one?
I
or-
believe it's going to be Roma.
Yes, you're right. I was. All right. I'm not gonna even give you the chance. You should know these without even the options. What color do you get if you mix blue and yellow?
Green.
All right. What planet is known as the red planet?
Mars.
All right. What animal is man's best friend?
Well, it's supposed to be dog, but I'll see how mine is when he gets home. He don't like to be left alone.
All right. And the last one. Who invented the theory of relativity?
Einstein.
You sure?
Theory of relativity.
Isaac Newton or Einstein?
Einstein.
You're right.
Yeah.
I tried to trick him.
Oh.
He got it. No wonder he was on the weakest link in all those shows. So did you get any money? Did you bank any money off these shows?
I won the weakest link. I won.
How much you get?
$47.50.
$47,000?
I wish. No, $47.50. I didn't leave off a digit. No, $4,750.
Do they take taxes out when you're there?
It's California, dude. So they take state taxes out before they even send you the check.
Is it like if you're SAG or AFTRA, they take their commission out too, like you're an actor too?
No.
All right.
No, you're not. You don't get your card.
What happens on Jeopardy? Because I've seen Jeopardy where you leave with negative money. Do they actually?
Yeah, you have to write a check before you leave. You're $1,500. You know, they got rid of debtor's prison, but they still have Jeopardy prison. What are you in for? Oh, I screwed up the final so bad.
Is the game shows? Is it getting on the game shows like it was 20 years ago? Has that really changed fundamentally?
I don't think so. I think it's kind of the same process. The holy grail for me is to get on Jeopardy. And
Have you tried?
I have. I've passed the test, but I've never been contacted.
Huh.
So yeah, I wish I would love to do Jeopardy.
You always see them, they freeze up, but you know that Aaron Rodgers won on Celebrity Jeopardy.
That's
so
right. He's a pretty smart guy.
What does that mean?
Okay.
Yeah, really.
So before we move on, I want to ask you the question that I missed
Sure.
on Millionaire.
Sure.
Because I was at 1,000. I made 1,000.
All right.
And I screamed, "I'm a thousandaire!" By the way, if you ever see these shows, the weakest link is on
Peacock.
Peacock. I don't know where the Millionaire clip is, but if you ever see him, I was a lot funnier before the editor got involved.
Yeah.
I had some really funny stuff.
They edit game shows?
Oh, 100%.
Oh, I did not know
100%. And one of the questions I had on Millionaire was, what is bone-sucking sauce? And I said, well, I don't suck a lot of bones. That did not make the show. That did not make the show.
I got to hear your question.
Okay. According to the old math joke, what did the 0 say to the 8? Nice hat, nice shoes, nice belt, nice gloves.
Is one of those?
It's one of those. Yeah, there's no more.
What did the 0 say to the 8?
Yep.
Nice hat?
That's what I put. That's what I got in my head was 1 0 on top of another.
Yeah.
It's a hat.
Yeah.
It's nice belt because you put a belt on, you cinch it up, and I took no lifelines, and
You could have taken lifelines? Oh, that's right.
I had all 3 lifelines. As I joked at the time, I'm saving them for next time. But yeah, because I was sure of it, and that's what I was worried about the most. It wasn't not knowing something; it was not knowing that I didn't know it.
That's the most hubris. Are all those lifelines like with all the timeouts that Andy Reid doesn't use in purgatory somewhere?
Yes, man, I was set up so well because you can have 3 phone a friends, and I had like 5 people at each location. I had like 15 people that were waiting on me, and
you didn't call.
No.
And after they just get the Sandman, they just get you out of there.
It's the most discordant thing ever because they take you off. And you stay in this little, underneath the bleachers, there's a little holding area. And then when the next person goes to commercial break, they hustle you out. You go from dark studio to bright sunlight, do not pass go.
Outside.
Outside, boom, you're done. Out, and then close the door behind you, and that's it.
Boy, that's humiliating.
It's terrible. And we went, I wanted to see, because it was just like 2004 maybe, I wanted to see the World Trade Center site. So I told my wife, and she didn't want to go, but we ended up going anyway. So that was horribly depressing. And then it was the same day the bridge collapsed in Minneapolis.
Yes. Oh my God.
So it was just like we went back to the hotel room and we're both just in tears.
Oh my God.
It was the worst day ever.
Oh my God.
So
well, hopefully we're going to take a break here. Hopefully I can find a clip of one of those game shows if we can put it in. We'll try to find the weakest link clip.
Excellent.
But we'll be back talking about Himalayan experience. We're going to talk about how it is to start up as a stand-up comedian when you're back with Scott Steen on the last show.
Hello, fellow budget ballers, and welcome to this week's Ticket Bargains. This is the place to be if you want to see great sports action without breaking the bank. So let's get to it. You know, we actually had 2 options for seeing a college basketball game for just one Jefferson. But the other option was in Utah, and I feel like we've already done all the fun things to do in Salt Lake City last time. So, you know what? Let's head to Orlando. That's where you're going to find the TCU Horned Frogs taking on the UCF Knights. And since you're in Orlando, you better be able to save that money because if you're thinking about heading to Disney World, that's going to set you back $119 per park per day. Thank you very much. Of course, you don't want to feed Mickey's Coke habit, you could always look for other fun things to do in Orlando, like Rachel's Steakhouse. And like all businesses in Florida, this steakhouse also doubles as a strip club. Come for the lobster, stay for the crabs. If pro basketball is more your speed, you'll want to put on your blue suede shoes and head on over to Memphis. That's where you'll find the Utah Jazz Hands taking on the Memphis Grizzlies. Just $8 will get you into the FedEx Center to see the best players in the business taking their shots. And speaking of taking their shots, make sure you keep your head on a swivel when you're out and about because only 4 cities in the country have a higher murder rate than Memphis. And if you get robbed, make sure you have at least $22 in the old prison suitcase. And that's because 22 smackers is what it's going to run you to see this week's NHL bargain. You'll once again be heading off to the capital of our newest state, Ottawa, Canada, to see the Utah White Albums take on the Ottawa Senators. Before the game, you may be wondering why no one wants to see any team from Utah play, but after the game, you'll know the answer. And there's only 2 options this week in the NFL, and both are budget breakers. You could pay $540 to see the Eagles dismantle the Washington Commanders, or $210 to climb Mount Arrowhead. But you know what? I'd like to suggest an alternative. For $0, you can enjoy both games at my house. You'll have full access to our 3 55-inch TVs, as well as such culinary delights as Costco chicken wings and taquitos, as well as the finest chips and dips Aldi has to offer. And don't forget the pre- and post-game entertainment. You can catch my Aussie Doodle Teddy barking incessantly for no apparent reason, and my 2 grown daughters fighting over who gets the recliner. With all the fights, cursing, and spilled beer, you'll feel just like you're at Arrowhead. Well, guys, that's it for this week. Please drop us a comment and let us know your tricks for big balling on a budget. Take care, everybody, and I'll be looking for you in row Z.
All right, Scott, we're both stand-up comedians here, and I want to talk about how it is to start in stand-up comedy. You talked about it briefly a little bit at Steve Kramer's club, but
okay.
You were in charge of the open micers. Open mic means you could come in, they'd get like, what, I don't know when I
3 to 5 minutes.
3 to 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But how do you know if you're good in 3 to 5 minutes? Who tells you to keep on going on?
Well,
And are there ever people that just say, "Hey, you suck. Go back and literally keep your day job"?
not anymore, but I used to do that. If somebody would come in, I mean, and not the first time.
And were you the arbiter? I mean, did
Yeah.
they actually listen to you? So there's a lot of maybe comedians who could have been comedians that you sent packing.
Yes.
Much like getting kicked out of Weakest Link.
Yes, exactly right. You are the weakest link. Goodbye. So, and I just didn't want them to be wasting their time or taking time away from other comics who may have a chance. What's that?
I said that's interesting.
Right.
All right.
And
So it's really a survival of the fittest or the funniest.
survival of the fun. And I'm not saying you would come in your first time and do 3 minutes like, oh, you suck, you'll never be able to do this. I mean, it's something that you can see over
Did you ever
3,
just
4,
say
5 times.
Did you ever say this really sucked? If you come in again, you need to bring something better. You
Oh,
need something
100%.
different?
Absolutely. This character isn't working for you. A lot of people would try to do physical comedy, like trip on the stage and
Oh my God, are you
and-
serious?
Yeah, a lot of that stuff. And fat guys taking the mic stand and
Hey, you can't see me.
Let
Can
me
you
get
see
this
me
out of the way
behind
so you
this?
can
Yeah,
see me, right?
yeah,
So,
exactly.
and being an overweight comic, and you kind of know this.
I do know it.
And
Believe me, you.
no offense, but we're here.
We're Portland guys, yeah.
We're
I
not
get
on
it.
the radio. We're
Yeah.
not. People can see this.
Yeah.
You acknowledge it.
Move on.
Move on. But the guys like John Penny or Ralphie May,
Yeah.
that would do 75,
Panette,
80% of that,
Panette.
or Panette rather, sorry. But they do all overweight material.
I hated that.
Nobody wants to see that.
I always thought, and it was the same thing with being black, is that let me just do a one black joke, one fat joke, and move on.
Yeah.
Because it's not part of me, and it's just like, you have to do it in the beginning because you have to acknowledge what they see.
Right, because otherwise people are going, do you think he knows?
Yeah, that's right. Do you think he knows he's fat? He hasn't mentioned it in 10 minutes.
Right.
Yes, I know. So I do my little fat bits and everything like that, and then I do my old bits. I do my fat, I mean, they're all kind of in the first 5 minutes of my act, and then I move on. It's just like any other act.
Right.
And the thing is, if they're doing all fat jokes or all minority jokes in their 5-minute set, do you say there's got to be something else? or-
Yes. Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, you've got to show me that you can do something besides use what is obvious. That's, to me, those are the great comics. The people, and Gary Goulman is the probably the best of just taking an everyday situational thing and making it hilarious. That, to me, that's the skill of comedy. It's not who can write a fat joke, who can write a black joke, who can write a female joke, who can write a gay joke, whatever your jam is, whatever thing happened in your life to bring you to the comedy stage.
Well, the thing about comedy now is that you look at Nate Bargatze and Chappelle, their whole specials may be like 4 stories. I mean, it's 4 stories with punchlines sprinkled throughout the stories.
Right.
How are you ever going to, if that's your format, how are you ever going to get past open mic night? Because you're never going to get a chance to tell a story at the beginning, middle, and end.
No, you're not. And, I don't know if you ever worked with Ron Schock.
Of course I did.
Probably
Great guy.
my favorite
Best
guy.
storyteller.
Yes.
He thought himself a storyteller.
And
which
he was like, I think he built himself as like the modern day Will Rogers
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah.
And he would just tell stories. I don't know how those guys get started. I don't know what forum.
you have to have at least 5 or 6 minutes. When you're famous and you have a show, you get people are buy it with you. But how do you do that for them?
Right.
It's
one of those things.
Because if you were to give Nate Bargatze or Dave Chappelle 5 minutes,
Bert Kreischer's another one.
They're not even to the first punchline.
No,
yet.
no, they've sprinkled in some stuff to keep you interested, but you haven't gotten anywhere near the big payoff yet. So. I don't know. I don't know how those guys got
So
started.
there are open mics in Kansas City.
Yep.
Before we leave, just on what advice would you give somebody who's watching this who wants to be a stand-up comedian?
I would the advice I would give is go check it out first as a non-comic. Go watch the show, get a feel for what's going on. Try to learn as much as you can. So with the first time you go up, there'll be as few surprises as possible because you're going to be so nervous about getting up there for your 3 minutes that you don't need to be able to worry about anything else. So you need to see how the flow of the show goes, how it works when the MC brings you up, what to use for.
Do you tell a joke? Do you do your own material, or what do you do?
Oh yes, absolutely. You write your own material, whatever's comfortable for you, whatever. And a lot of these people, they're funny down at the plant. They're the funny.
That's why they go to the club.
And that's why they go to the club. So if you can remember things that made other people laugh, try to use that stuff. And try to see when you go for your first time, just to watch, see what works, see what doesn't work. Don't be blue. don't try to stay away from the F-bombs. With me, it's part of the way I talk, so it's kind of hard to do that. But don't make it, in 3 minutes, don't drop 30 F-bombs.
Yeah. Well, it loses its potency.
Yes.
You know what
That's
I mean?
absolutely right. That's absolutely
You
right.
just can't do that. Well, alrighty, Scott, thank you so much. You know what? I think you should have a sports show here, don't you, Joseph? I think we might be seeing him again. We're going to have to work him over a little bit.
I'd love to put that together.
That's right. So this has been Scott Steen on The Last Show. I'm Elliot Threet. Adios.